Hey there, thanks for listening. This is Brothers and Beskar. I'm your host, Matt, and always with me.
Jordan over here.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. It's our first podcast, first episode. So this podcast is going to be everything Star Wars, whether it be the movies, literature, TV shows, any of the lore that we discuss. And we have a new bit of information as to what our podcast is going to be about as well. Jordan, if you want to share that a little bit.
Just expanding on maybe some of the topics. Because I think this week or last week they announced there'll be one new show a year basically. So we'd definitely be limited for right now, the foreseeable future on new stuff. But there's always hope they'll change that because I believe Kathleen Kennedy will be gone probably here soon, and whoever they bring in to replace her, they might change up stuff again. We never know. But we'll probably expand into Marvel, DC, everything. I don't know if Dave Filoni will cover. I'd say Jon Favreau before
Jon
Dave
Favreau
Filoni.
and Dave Filoni.
He's already Dave Filoni's he's already up there. But if you bring in Jon Favreau, if he's ready to run something, I think that would be perfect. But yeah, we're just gonna touch on more than Star Wars. But for the most of our focus will be Star Wars because that's pretty much what both of us enjoy the most.
Mm-hmm.
And this first episode, we'll just kind of go through a little bit about us and some of our favorite characters. And then I played Star Wars Outlaws, and I will give basically a spoiler review, not spoiling everything, but probably going to spoil most stuff. Matthew didn't get to play it because he didn't feel like it. So I'll be spoiling it for him. And anyone else that wants to listen about it, be spoiling some stuff and just giving my review, how I thought it played out, just a rating and what I wish it probably could have been. But other than that, I'll pass it back to Matt to get us started.
Yeah, so I'll start us off. Pretty much a good baseline of our first conversation. Well, first is how I got into Star Wars. So when I was like maybe as old as I could remember having a coherent thought, when I lived at my grandmother's place in Jersey, she had like a whole like bookshelf full of VHSs, and she had the original trilogy before they were called episodes 4, 5, and 6. Just A New Hope all the way up to Return of the Jedi. So I watched them early on, not really pretty much too focused on it because I kind of grew up on horror movies instead. But as I got older, I'm a late bloomer. My buddy told me about Clone Wars because I watched the prequel trilogies when they came out, and still Star Wars was my favorite thing. But then I watched Clone Wars maybe 7 years ago, and it really got me like immersed into it, and it made me rewatch like every Star Wars movie and start playing the games, getting into the lore, and I like instantly got hooked.
Well, so. You like a bunch of animated stuff too, so that was kind of right up your alley with getting to watch that and how much they expanded on it. Mm-hmm. Everything was awesome.
Big lore guy. What about you? How'd you get started?
I know I'd seen like the original cuts of the first original trilogy because I remember certain parts of Jabba not always being a big slug. There's a person there. I just had those vague memories, but never truly understanding or liking it, I would say. And then probably about the sequels. So I really got into it because I know I watched. Yeah, it was a late start. I always played sports and stuff as a kid. I was never into all the video games and all the nerdy stuff for the most part. I'm a late nerd. But yeah, I just remember, I remember going seeing episode 3 at midnight with my neighbors. And then I remember seeing Force Awakens with a friend. I was in college by that time. And I just loved it and made me want to go back and rewatch all the other ones. And then I think I'd watch Clone Wars and stuff too, and just never really truly looked into everything. And after that, I just started getting more and more into it. Got a couple Lego sets, met Matt over here, and I think we both just exploded after that.
Yeah. It's always like trying to come back every time we meet up every week, like twice, to just like catch each other up on info. Like, hey, did you read about this? Did you hear about this? And then we just keep talking about it. So,
which is pretty bad because we only live like 10 minutes down the road from each other.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, We work.
We adult.
Yeah, we adult. Not saying anybody else doesn't adult. Just
adulting's not fun.
It's not. But kind of moving along a little bit. So for me, we'll do like one at a time. For me, like my favorite Jedi, we'll start off with. For me, it would be Ahsoka, mainly because I didn't know who she was until Clone Wars, and obviously she never would have existed without Clone Wars and Dave Filoni. But as I watched her for the first time, I thought she was like really annoying and just kind of like a pest.
Kind of snippy.
Yeah, it's funny, like snips. But eventually she like grew on me, especially in Rebels, where you kind of see how leaving the Order, like by her own volition, mind you, like changed her mindset about like the Jedi and how they follow the Force in general. To where like you see that last season of Clone Wars where she meets up with the Junker sisters, and then eventually she meets up with the Mandalorians again to try to take back Mandalore, and you kind of see like a good representation of just like the light side of the Force, just being like a will, like being subjected to the Force and like following the Force, without any like hidden agendas or like any extra stuff, like without unfortunately without the influence of like Yoda's dying mind, because didn't suspect a Sith sitting right underneath him.
She didn't have to get caught up in the politics side of being with the Jedi Council. She was a Padawan her whole life basically, and she didn't get roped into all that. And plus her master was Anakin,
free-spirited,
very free-spirited, went around with Kenobi a lot, and he just kind of did what he wanted to for the most part, because his master was Qui-Gon, and just that lineage of
not canon. Well, then you have Dooku, who just said, forget the Order, I'm just going to be a Sith.
It's a very fun lineage to be a part of for the most part, because they weren't all strictly by the book.
Except for Yoda.
Well, I mean, he was still he did some interesting things.
You mean when he snuck off of Coruscant when Anakin, when he was old?
I don't know.
All right. Yeah, what about you?
So my favorite Jedi is Cal Kestis. I like the games, the Jedi Survivor series games. Hopefully they'll make a third one. But he's like another pure Jedi, I would say.
Yeah.
Like Ahsoka, a lot of people say Ezra, Qui-Gon, those types that are just basically pure Jedi. He does fight with the dark side in the game. You get to use some crazy powers, but he's gone through a lot, so you give him slack. But he's just awesome, and plus he has got BD1, and I don't know, it's just a fun take on a different Jedi that survived Order 66.
Yeah.
And then I'll just go ahead and jump into my favorite Sith is Vader, but I like the newish stuff of Vader, which as we're recording this, we just found out earlier that James Earl Jones passed away today, which is very sad. Hopefully they can still use his voice for everything new that they do. But yeah, I just like starting like Rogue One where they redid the hallway scene. He was just
it was awesome,
going crazy on him. All the games now that he's just so powerful. The Kenobi show where he's just extra powerful. Because in the original trilogy, you didn't really get that much from him. You got a force choke here and there and throw in some stuff, but he didn't seem like he was this big bad Sith that everyone's afraid of. But so I just like the newer version of him that they've kind of expanded on as he's grown more popular as the years have gone on. What about you?
For me, for my favorite Sith, sorry, I was in a deep inner thought about Anakin and then the Acolyte, but we'll talk about that eventually. It's Darth Maul, or just Maul at this point because he's no longer alive. For me, he was a very interesting character. He was taken on as a Padawan from Sidious for I don't know if it was that brief or that long, but it seemed brief because, right when Attack of the Clones, he took on Tyrannus, i.e. Count Dooku, but it wasn't that short-lived because after Episode 1, everyone kind of was like, it's a neat concept, dual lightsabers. Oh, wait, he's dead? And then Clone Wars came out, and then you just discovered that he survived. He went crazy. He got rebuilt, essentially, from the waist down. At one point, he led Mandalore. He had a brother. And then one of my favorite fight scenes in all the Clone Wars series is how Sidious just like owns him and Savage, because you get to see like 4 red lightsabers and a dark saber in one fight, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, no one. For the first time, you see Sidious have two lightsabers.
Yeah,
no one thought of that.
That was awesome. He's like so nimble, kind of like he's like just a taller Yoda, essentially.
That's a benefit of the Clone Wars animation. They can go crazy and jump around and be more fluid with their attacks than the movies.
Yeah, but and then seeing him progress into like that downward spiral of hatred, which is kind of like this Sith is all about, is like acting on your emotions, which is like hate for him was like his pure one and only emotion, that disdain, and like he was scared at one point. It's like seeing how like everything kind of came to a climax at the end of Rebels, where Obi-Wan kind of like ended it, how it started, finally killing him. He stayed dead.
Maybe, who knows?
I did not see the blade hit him.
Yeah, true.
It was off screen, so you don't. I think he just like lost his hate, and that alone like cut off his like will to live. Like he was only running off of hatred, and then when he realized Obi-Wan wasn't like looking for revenge anymore, and he like made peace with everything, Darth Maul was just like, oh man, I wasted my life. Now I'm gonna die, like hopefully peacefully. And then he asks about Luke, and because even from the end of Clone Wars, like he was plotting to like stop Sidious, because he asked Ahsoka for help because he knew that Anakin was gonna take over, but nobody wanted to listen to the crazy red man.
Well, that's a lot of easy stuff they could rewrite in for that final season. It's like, wait, maybe Maul knew what was going on. Maybe he wasn't so bad after all.
No, I mean, he is bad. The Silent Adventurous was bad, gone good.
That's
but
another one.
Before I lose thought of that thought, so I did watch Acolyte. So prior to recording this, I just finished it 3 weeks ago, and it really interested me because one of the main staple points of that season was that she wasn't supposed to kill anybody like with a lightsaber. It like kills people unarmed, because Jedi don't attack people unarmed. Then when you look back into the Clone Wars in the last season, I forgot the antagonist, but he was kind of like a spider alien. He kept on attacking them multiple times throughout the series. He was just a general for the
Admiral Trench.
Yeah, for the Confederacy. He just like straight up stabs Trench in the back, and then he also kills that other guy on Mandalore because he was gonna blow people up. Like it's like he was just unconventional Jedi to begin with. It's like he didn't learn anything.
Who was that, Anakin?
Yeah. He was just killing people.
Well, slow turn to the dark side.
Yeah, it's pretty slow. But yeah, I thought Acolyte was good. An unpopular opinion. I do think it deserves a second season. Yeah.
Nah. They can take characters and make them stuff, but that's a whole nother topic we can talk about another time about thoughts and stuff for new shows or movies or anything. So my favorite character, which is pretty much just anyone besides, Jedi or Sith. I like BB-8 just because all the droids tend to bring that comedic relief to the movies, and where a lot of it's more serious. And BB-8, I just thought it was hilarious in that one. He'd sit there and purr sometimes, and he'd give a thumbs up with the lighter, and just the way he'd react with Finn when Finn's like, "I'm not really with the Resistance." He backs up like, "What?" You can almost see the reaction of his face, even though he doesn't have a face, kind of like Deadpool-ish, where Deadpool, you can tell what's under the mask just by looking at the mask. But yeah, so I like BB-8 as one of my favorite droid characters.
Thinking about it, I'm kind of like tossed between the two. So like to kind of keep with the theme, for me it would be Chopper, because he's like one of the most like animated, no pun intended, because he's animated, like one of the most animated like droids out there. Like he has so much emotion, so much backsass, and all that other stuff. And he has like probably the largest kill count in all the Star Wars series. Like right up there with R2.
He also kind of talks too. You can
because he's voiced by Dave Filoni.
Yeah, you can make out his words for the most part when he's just dart, 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 dart.
Yeah, and then on top of that, it's like a mixture between him and then your favorite Weequay pirate, Hondo Ohnaka. Like he's just like so charismatic and funny, and he's been in like every single animated series. Essentially,
It needs to be live action. I'm waiting for it.
He is live action over at Galaxy's Edge.
Well, Galaxy's Edge is one thing. But I was waiting for him in The Mandalorian, or hopefully he'll show up in that movie.
I'm hoping he does. That'd be really great.
You got to just do some fan service on that.
Yeah, you can't live without Hondo. Pretty good guy.
We can move into. Go ahead, move into the game review.
Oh, for Outlaw?
For Outlaws?
Yeah, shoot.
All right, just because.
Spoiler alert! If you have not played Star Wars Outlaw, and I'm one of those people.
So speaking of Hondo, you did get a name drop.
Oh.
Right when you get to Tatooine. So
Ah.
guys like, aren't you part of Hondo Anaka's crew? I was like, yes, I'm gonna get to see him. I haven't seen him yet. I'm hoping he's gonna show up in a side mission, but I did find out yesterday he's actually gonna be in one of the DLCs. He's gonna have a mission. I was like, but I probably won't have it for that long because
Ubisoft
games are expensive and did Ubisoft for the month. So I got it for like $20 instead of $60. But overall, the story of Outlaws I loved. It fits right into Star Wars canon. Just get to go associate with these the different factions of the underworld. So you got Jabba the Hutt, you got the Pikes, you got Crimson Dawn, so Lady Kira from Solo.
Yep.
She's in it. And then there's this other one, I don't even remember what they're called. They're like some kind of bug alien thing. I didn't really care about them. I
forgot.
I just passed them off. I didn't really mess with them too much. I pretty much stuck with Jabba because you do stuff for one crew. Sometimes it would affect the other crews. Fun thing is you'd be on a mission. It's like, well, do you really want to give this to Jabba or do you want to give it to the Pikes?
Yeah.
Screw Jabba. I'm going to give it to the Pikes. It was just a fun story. Kay Vess, the main character, she's pretty much a female Han Solo, but I didn't mind it. She fits in perfectly. It's a character I could see them adapting to live action very easily too, and she wasn't annoying or anything like a lot of characters were. The gameplay, it was all right. It had its ups and downs. There were certain things I liked about it, certain things I didn't. I liked the main missions, just going through it, getting everything done. Some of the stuff on the gameplay I didn't like was very Splinter Cell-y, I would say. A little too much trying to rely on stealth, and you had your pistol. You didn't have any other guns to use. You could pick up another one, but you'd use it for a few seconds and then you drop it. So that part was all right. It was an open world, so you can run around and do as many side missions as you wanted. It's just fun to visit all the different planets because, you always got Tatooine, but you got Kijimi from Rise of Skywalker in it. And there's a new planet. And then you started in Canto Bright from The Last Jedi, the casino world, basically. So that was pretty cool. Just to see some of those in a game. Surprise characters were fun. Lando was in it. So Sabac's a very interesting part about it, which is fun because Matt's got the Sabac set from Galaxy's Edge and we like to play it. So very similar to that, just expanded a little bit with different cards and little token things you got and chips. But one of my favorite parts was walked into this one Sabac little underground thing, walked in, went to a cinematic view, and who do you see in the background? Lando in the dark, just leaning up. He just walks up. Like, oh, Lando's in it. That was fun. You got to see Vader. Vader's integral to the villain's part.
Okay.
Because the villain wasn't really a true villain. Just basically one guy was ISB agent undercover trying to find the rebels by being an underground syndicate for the most part.
Oh.
Vader's like, bro, you haven't found anybody, so I'm done with you for the most part. Yeah. So I said the Hondo name drop. There's also a little Easter egg of Boba Fett, which
of course
had to. So you're sneaking into Jabba's palace, going through the vents. You can look left to right. Look to the left. There's Boba Fett just sitting there having a conversation with someone. I was hoping to see his shit, but I didn't. Yeah. But it was still a nice little Easter egg. I said Kay Vess, she was a great character. Indy 5, the main droid was good side character. With it, I wish she was involved a little more. I think is kind of misleading on the side of the, what would be the word, the promotional stuff.
Yeah.
Where he's right there next to her, but he only goes on like 2 missions with her for the most part. I was hoping to have a little bit of backup,
Whack.
Yeah.
Like BD, like,
give me a commando droid that's going to just wreck everybody.
Like BD1,
Yeah, it was just too much. So it was just too much stealth for that. But so the BD1 comparison's Nyx, her little pet. You'd send him to go distract people and get stuff for you. So I understand why they couldn't really use him. And then Sabak. I love playing Sabak. I just run around him, try and get all the Sabak. Went at it. Did fairly good for a while. Then a couple times I started sucking. So the
gambling edition
the
starts.
Rebel Alliance was in it right from the beginning. She gets tracked. She's going into this main guy on Canto Brights because his vault, he's got a lot of money there.
Yeah.
And they find a rebel spy. And it's like, oh, we're the Rebel Alliance. She's like, what the heck? I'm looking for money. And then his people come in because they're part of her crew and she didn't know that. And they knock her out basically and she gets busted. So she gets a death mark. So that's part of the story. You're trying to get rid of this death mark. But so they do a good job of having the Rebel Alliance, but not being like, hey, guess what? Now you're part of the Rebel Alliance. It was like she didn't want to be a part of it. She was actively trying to avoid them because they betrayed her in the beginning, left her for dead basically. And at the very end, she helps them, but she doesn't join them, which I think is a good thing because usually they do those games. It's like, oh, now you're part of the Rebel Alliance. You're done. Like you don't get a say. And they also made a good job of making the Rebel Alliance not look like these 100% pure good people. Like they did a lot of questionable things and very concerning on some stuff when you get into it, but I thought that was fun. So those are kind of my pros. Now I have a few cons about it.
Oh, no, cons.
You always got to have a con about something. It's not bad.
Podcast.
It is uplifting. You still have to talk about the negative things personally.
Oh, yeah.
So I was a little disappointed on the customizing feature for an open world game because you have your belt, your pants, and your jacket. That's all the customization you can do. Kind of
Does
whack.
it carry stats with it or no?
There's a few you can carry an extra grenade. Oh, you take less damage while sprinting or sliding. I'm like, come on, that's not fun. There's no XP either, so killing people does nothing for you. They don't drop stuff for you. You don't level up.
Huh?
Like you're running around the same thing. They have these like little characters that you try to do certain things to unlock more things with. Like, oh, here, do a bunch of this and you get extra health.
Like other abilities and stuff.
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, there's no point of like going through and just wrecking a whole base of Imperials. You don't get anything for it.
It's fun.
It's fun, but there's no in-game process for it. So some of those parts for an open world game, I would think, could be improved upon. And like I said, but the weapons, you can pick up like a blaster from Stormtrooper, but once it's out, it's out. Yeah. And then if you go crawl in a vent or climb up a ladder, you drop it.
Yeah.
So you're stuck. Like you don't keep it with you. I would hope you could keep it with you. Have a little few more weapons to use besides just your blaster pistol, which you can customize that 3 different ways and have like a power shot, an exploding shot, and a multi-shot or something. Yeah. Could have been a little more. There's a autosave feature, but it doesn't save very accurately. So you can run through, open a bunch of chests, do a bunch of stuff, you die, and then you're all the way back to where you started. And it doesn't really tell you when it's autosaving either. So I don't know if that's something they might fix as time goes on, but it's just that's a little nitpicky thing.
I don't like that whatsoever.
Like I said, the villain, it's the guy who hires you to do this one thing. He ends up being the brother of the one guy, and then he just wants to take over the
brother is the guy that got fired by Vader.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he took the little information to give it to Vader, so Vader did it, and of course he shot his own brother and killed him. I was hoping it was going to be like K-Vest's dad or something, because her mom comes in at the end, and you're kind of like, oh no, what? Her mom? So I was thinking the one of the dudes was going to be her dad.
Was mom bad?
Yes and no. She left her basically, but there's a little epilogue little clip where Kay goes to her mom when she's in Imperial prison. She sneaks in, and she has this little chip with her, and she finds out it was a tracker thing. So her mom always knew where she was. So kind of a little redemption thing for her mom. But other than that, it wasn't.
So, but she wasn't like a bad person. Like
no, she was just Kay's a smuggler basically. Well, she's really a nobody.
Yeah.
And then she becomes this more of a smuggler with the syndicates, but that is about it. So I mean, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. That's a solid game. I just wish it could have been different.
Unfortunately, why am I blank brain farting on the game series?
Jedi Survivor series?
Jedi Survivor series set a really high bar because I know that you know me, and when it comes to like certain games, I like games that make you want to like throw your controller. Like I love the Dark Souls games, and if you Jedi Survivor like and Fallen Order are the closest things to Star Wars Dark Souls games you're ever gonna get because like it's so challenging, but the reward you feel after like beating that really hard boss or like that level, like it's ruined every other type of video game for me because I don't feel that same sense of accomplishment anymore.
Those are the games I had to put on like easy, put on Padawan sitting over here. I can't play Knight. I die too fast.
Oh yeah, Knight was rough when I played it for the first time, the first game when it first came out, and then I like after running into that toad in that hidden cave in the first world. And I beat it on easy. I was like, it was too easy. So then in the second playthrough on like Jedi Knight, on playthrough number 2,
it's hard. I was like, I can't. I'm on Padawan. So one of the things I'm hoping for this game, like if it was a bounty hunter style game, where you had more customizability, more weapon to choose from, you can customize your ship a little bit in the game, but you're stuck with that ship. Like if they did an open world bounty hunter game, and so I started rewatching The Mandalorian again just to kind of give a refresh on everything. So it's basically just brings you back to make a Mandalorian game. It doesn't have to be canon because you can give him his nice shiny armor without having Grogu with him.
Yeah.
Just Mandalorian style game, Beskar armor. You can have all your weapons that you want, which I'm hoping they are going to do something with that with Ubisoft because with Assassin's Creed games, it's very open world, customizable.
Yeah.
Different weapons. So I'm thinking because they re-released Bounty Hunter game with Jango Fett not too long ago, right before Outlaws came out. So I'm hoping that that's their plan is to like, well, let's get people into this style of game. Let's re-release Bounty Hunter, kind of get people back into that. And now, a few years down the line, let's make a Bounty Hunter Star Wars game with Ubisoft.
I feel like that would be successful if people weren't already anticipating the Knights of the Old Republic remake, which has been rumored for years now.
Back.
But that's the one game everybody's waiting for.
I did start playing the original one again.
I don't even know where to find it.
It's on. I either bought it through Xbox or it's on Game Pass. I don't remember.
What? Wait, I thought it was an online MMO.
No, it's offline MMO.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, offline MMO?
You're thinking of the Old Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic.
That's a different. That's the online one that's kind of based in the same time, but Star Wars
Knights of
the Old Republic is there's that one and the second one. Those are on Xbox and maybe PS2. I don't even know if they're on PlayStation actually.
They are not. I just currently Googled it. Oh, there's Star Wars Republic Commando.
No, that's like a clone trooper thing. So they were just massive role-playing games where there's so much to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't online. This is back before online was a thing. You started up and it's the original Xbox logo. The whole bubbling thing and Xbox. Yeah, that'll be a fun game too once that one comes out. But that's pretty much my review for Outlaws.
So I was just looking through the PlayStation Store. Apparently, and this was released in 2016 for Battlefront. Battlefront Rogue One VR mission.
You don't have a VR set anymore, do you?
No. I do plan on buying a MetaQuest in the future down the line, so that way I'm not like I can buy whatever game I want without console restrictions.
Supposed to be Assassin's Creed game coming for that too. That's got to be
Yeah,
nauseating.
I feel like that'd be fun. I would enjoy it because I really enjoyed.
You jump out your window.
What I hated the most is I played the Star Wars VR games on PS4 VR.
Vader.
Yeah, the Vader ones where you pretty much accidentally become his apprentice, and there was challenges at the end of them. They were so fun, and then the PS5 VR came out, and they're like, yeah, like those games aren't backwards compatible with the new VR. So I was like, great. So
you had to sell it.
So I mean, I sold it so I could buy one of a guitar. But I do plan on buying a MetaQuest because I'm pretty sure the Vader games are on the MetaQuest, and Beat Saber's still on MetaQuest, and first-person shooter Pavlov. It's really fun. It's like Call of Duty, but
whatever you say.
But before I stray off too far, I am really excited for the new movie that's eventually going to come out.
The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Boba Fett movie.
The Mandalorian and Grogu. Or the one after that, that's kind of like a wrap-up of...
No, that is the one. It's the wrap-up.
There's another one, too, they're coming out with.
I thought that was it.
Yeah, so you got the Mandalorian and Grogu. There's supposed to be an Ahsoka Seasons 2. And then there's another one that they're making that's going to kind of...
But they're not
the
doing
whole
Boba
Mandoverse
Fett
thing.
Chapter 2.
No. That didn't... I don't think
I think it was Mando anyway.
I liked it. I liked that show. I didn't think it was as bad. There were... that chase scene was stupid with the speeder bikes that were going 2 miles an hour, and they tried to make it seem like they're going 50. But... yeah, I like Boba Fett. He was fun in that show. Yeah, those movies coming out. They'll be fun to theorize about and all that good stuff.
Also, I guess before we get close to wrapping it up, just kind of like a bonus conversation, which won't last too long. Rings of Power Season 2 came out.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yep. So you haven't watched Season 1?
No, I watched Season 1.
Okay. I haven't watched it yet either.
I've been doing other stuff.
I'm super excited to watch it. And this is also a spoiler alert for anybody who has not watched Rings of Power Season 1. If not, I would just skip maybe 2 minutes. The fact that the whole season, I never expected Sauron to be in the show, and then at the end, she was just you're Sauron, and I'm like, what?
That was my number one thought.
The whole time?
I jumped a couple times, but I was I just kept going back to him. He's got to be.
But I didn't spend the show wondering who could be Sauron, because I didn't think he was going to show up. Because no one ever mentioned,
It's been a while since I watched. I got to rewatch it before I watch the second
season. They do a recap.
Well, they always do a recap.
But yeah, essentially, so unless... The only reason why I knew Sauron was in the show is because I heard about it from people before I watched the show, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's like a whodunit. But if I didn't, and I went in blind, I wouldn't have even known Sauron was supposed to show up.
Yeah. So you didn't... I think a lot of people just think he's just some other race, he's not a human. Yeah. But I just felt it was randomly, he's in the water. Where'd you come from? I don't really know. And then I told you before, that little scene in the quote-unquote hallway of... that wherever they were, I forgot the name of that place. He just kind of freaked out and just went crazy on the guards. Yeah. I was just that's a little suspicious right there.
Well, I'm excited for Season 2. I'm going to hopefully get time to watch it. I guess when we meet up next, we can start talking about other things too, because right now we're kind of at a standstill.
We're in limbo.
Star Wars, yeah.
Star Wars is in pause right now, I believe, is the technical term everyone's using. Like I said in the beginning, I'm sure Kathleen Kennedy's going to be gone. They haven't renewed her contract. And I doubt Filoni or Favreau will take over, but that's a dream team, is to have Favreau just kind of run everything like Feige does for MCU. Yeah. You need someone who's familiar with it. He does great on all the directing and acting, and he hasn't done many movies lately, so maybe he's ready to get into that. Back on saddle. Get into that part of life and not be just directing movies and different things. But who knows? He might come back because Iron Man came back. So
no, Dr. Doom.
Yes, but Robert Downey Jr. came back, so Happy Hogan's gonna be like, what?
It's true. Full disclosure, we will eventually have an opening and closing theme. But considering how new the podcast is, you will just have to settle for an unburned silence
We bid you bid bye.
Yes, everyone.
I spell it B-I-B. Brothers and Beskar. Bye. Bib bye.
Okay, well maybe not that. All right, see you guys later.